Hello and welcome to Big Picture. I am Vishal Dahiya and today we will take a look at the issue of decriminalization of politics. The Supreme Court on Tuesday said the Parliament should enact a law to prevent criminals with serious criminal cases pending against them from entering the legislature. Five-judge bench headed by CJI Deepak Mishra said this while pronouncing its judgment on a bunch of pleas raising questions whether lawmakers who face criminal trial can be disqualified from fighting elections at the stage of framing charges against them. The Apex Court also asked candidates to put their criminal antecedents in bold letters in the election affidavit, and the political party should give wide publicity to this information both in print and electronic media after nomination is filed by the candidate. Under the current provisions of Representation of People's Act, lawmakers cannot contest elections only after their conviction in a criminal case. There are a total of 4,896 MPs and MLAs in the country. And in March, the centre government had said in an affidavit to the Apex Court that 1,765 MPs and MLAs, that is a little over a third of the total number, face criminal charges. Last year, a two-judge bench of the Supreme Court had also asked the government to set up 12 special courts across 11 states and the national capital to deal with cases related to elected representatives. So how can politics be decriminalized? What is the way forward after the Supreme Court verdict on this issue? And what are the various laws and other acts involved here? For more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of guests today in the studio. Let me start by introducing them to you, beginning with Shekhar Iyer, senior journalist, who is with us in the studio here. We're also joined by Vipul Mudgal, who is one of the petitioners and director and chief executive of Common Cause as well in this particular case. And we have with us Mr. S.Y. Qureshi, former chief election commissioner. We are also joined by Mr. Chakshu Roy, the head of outreach PRS legislative. Welcome all of you to Rajya Sabha TV studios. Let me begin with you, Vipul, to try and take the first reaction. Are you satisfied with this kind of verdict, or were you expecting some more from the Supreme Court?
You see, definitely we were expecting more. That is why we filed the case. You see, we were the co-petitioners along with Public Interest Foundation. So it was Common Cause and Public Interest Foundation, and then Public Interest Foundation for the last few years has not been very active. So it has fallen on Common Cause to fight this case. So we filed many affidavits, we gave many suggestions also, and two very interesting, very good things came out of the Supreme Court itself. One of them was that all the cases, criminal cases going on against MPs and MLAs and MLCs and all elected representatives should be completed within 1 year of filing. Now that was quite a landmark ruling in its own way. It came in 2014. And the next one which came after that was 2017, another 3 years later, which said that all the criminal cases against these MPs, MLAs will be tried in special courts, and 12 special courts will be established. Now, we thought that after these two landmark judgments, there would be one more. Maybe the court could have said that, really serious charges which attract punishment of more than 7 years or so, or real kind of, serious charges of criminal nature, probably they could have done something more there. So there is a little bit of disappointment on that count. But I mean, you can't expect the court to do everything.
Okay, I mean, that's what the court has said specifically, saying that we can't cross that Lakshman Rekha and do what the Parliament has to do. That is why one of the significant portions of the judgment is that the Parliament should go ahead and enact a law. Let me bring in Mr. Qureshi here. Mr. Qureshi, from your point of view, and since you have held that high office, the office of Chief Election Commissioner, and since Election Commission is also a very important part and parcel of this entire issue which we are talking about, how do you read this particular judgment? What kind of positive changes it might bring in, and what is it that needs to be done more now?
I'm disappointed but not surprised, because the basic issue has been all these 20 years when this debate has been around, that the law of the land is that which carries presumption of innocence, which means everybody is innocent unless convicted. Very true, but then we had to find a way out, because in the process, while we are waiting for some ideal situation to develop, as you read out your figures, 1/3 of all the MPs and MLAs have criminal cases pending against them. And this figure, unfortunately, has been increasing. In today's Lok Sabha, we have 182. In the previous Lok Sabha, there were 162. And in 2004, there were 124. The way it is increasing, God save us. Now, why it is disappointing? Because putting the ball back in Parliament's court will take us nowhere, because to expect Parliament to pass an act which will criminalize 1/3 of their members, that's not going to happen. We have been chasing them for the last 20 years with no result, and it will make no difference to them. Secondly, the Supreme Court has also passed it on to Election Commission. It is like adding, rubbing salt on our wound. For 20 years we have been crying hoarse, and we have been told now we should do something more. What more can we do? As it, in giving a voter informed choice, if we start advertising the candidate's performance, we will end up in a soup. There will be lots of cases that we are biased and we are discriminate against some and covering up some others. We cannot be running campaigns about the bona fides of different candidates.
Okay, you mentioned how the numbers have been increasing. Let me bring in Shekhar here. Shekhar, as Mr. Qureshi pointed out, from 2004 to 2014 to 2000, maybe 19 again in the Lok Sabha, the way the numbers have increased in the past 10 to 15 years is something which is a very cause of concern. But one argument which comes in is that most of these cases are frivolous ones filed out of maybe the political dogfight which has been happening between a candidate and his opponent, or two political parties per se. So is that also a cause of something which is trying to jumble up the issue here?
No, well, presumption of innocence is a very good jurisprudence angle which the government cited and which political parties also cite. It may be also political reality. There is a lot of vindictive politics in different states. But at least when it comes to serious crimes like, say, murder or rioting or rape, no, these are very serious cases. If somebody is accused like this, should that person be allowed to contest election? Now, I am subject to correction. If I am an aspirant for, say, an IAS job or any civil service job, can I have these cases against me and get appointment letter? What I cannot get as an employee of the government of India or the states, if there is any case pending against me, because without a security or other clearance, you don't get final appointment. If this happens to a functionary of the government, a public functionary like member of parliament, a member of, with these cases, I mean, I am not disputing the fact that vindictive politics is as much a reality. But at least when it comes to serious crimes, should not the political parties, get together and stop this? Because after all, it is not versus your murder accused versus my murder accused candidate. At least when it comes to serious crimes, heinous crimes, the political parties should take initiative and act.
Okay.
Now, I think I can see a parallel. You remember when there was lot of outcry over the way Supreme Court had then refused to accept the plea on Section 377. At that time, they tossed it back to the Parliament, saying it was Parliament to pass the law. Now, after 5 years, we saw this year, Supreme Court had to step in and say, no, this is not there. So, similarly, I think if we are going to leave it to politicians and Parliament to do it, perhaps that day will never come, because a pair of tongs can catch almost everything. But can it catch itself? Because today you are asking politicians to do the very thing that they have to catch one among them or prevent one among them. That's a very tall order given the politics of the day. It's difficult. So therefore, somewhere along you need some kind of a direction, some kind of a, somebody has to say, no, this is it, not beyond. And I'm not sure whether the Parliament as it is, we see today, that politicians can get together and agree on this, okay, that, we have to keep these out. Because I think that they have to consider the larger issue of governance.
Okay. So that again is one of the presumptions. Let's bring in Chakshu here on this. Chakshu, what do you make out of the judgment one and the argument or the points which have been made by our panelists so far that though vindictive politics is the reality of the day, but then somebody will have to step in and say that enough is enough. Let's now put this to an end, and let's now put checks and balances in place, specific ones.
Vishal, we have an esteemed panel today, and I agree with a number of things that the panel has said. I wish it was so easy that you could pass a law and then you could rid our representative politics from criminal elements. I wish it was that easy just by passing a law. And let me give you an example. Our current Representation of People's Act puts a ceiling on the amount of money that can be spent on campaigns. And, general agreement, would suggest that that ceiling is good on paper, but in reality, a fair bit more money is spent on election campaigns. So is a law the only way to solve this is a larger question to be discussed. But coming to the law itself, I would think that in some cases, Parliament has acted after being pushed by the Supreme Court. So, for example, when it comes to electoral politics, the Lily Thomas case, pushed Parliament into, putting together a law which, which removed the differences between under trials and people who had, people whose appeals were pending from contesting. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is, the question of innocent till proven guilty. And some people have, suggested that yes, and as Shekhar sir pointed out, that the government took that plea that, innocent till proven guilty. And one of the solutions that has been provided is that a moratorium on filing of cases against people, just to disqualify them, let's say 6 months before the election, so no cases can be filed. But the other part is, the larger part of the thing is the rule of law in this country. The reason we have these special fast-track courts is because we have a huge pendency of cases. Now, if somebody could turn around and say as to why are criminal cases for politicians getting more precedence as was the common man? Can't everything be tried quickly and efficiently and the verdict come out? So I'm not too sure if it's a simple question of law and it's a simple question of legislation. It's a question of can political parties come together? And Vipul, what possibly in his next remarks point out, that political parties do give tickets to people with criminal backgrounds. And many of them then find their way into our Vidhan Sabhas and Parliament.
Okay, so is it just a question of the law? But let me go back to Mr. Qureshi here. Since all of us know that laws have specifically been made, there are laws which govern this aspect, the Representation of People's Act, and something which the petitioners pointed out that might not be sufficient and they need to be augmented well as well. But when it comes to Election Commission's rule, Mr. Qureshi, the suggestions which have been made by the Supreme Court today and some others, since you're saying it's a 2-decade-old case as well, you must have also encountered, situations wherein you might have found yourself or, your organization's hand tied in not being able to take action or do anything.
Yes, of course. For the last 20 years, we have been writing regularly to the government to bring a law. And when that failed, we joined hands and we supported whichever PIL came before the Supreme Court. In fact, one very good reform which had come from the Supreme Court through the PIL of Common Cause and ADR was in 2002 when affidavit was made compulsory for all candidates, that they have to, through an affidavit, they will declare what criminal cases they have pending against them and what is their financial status, assets and liabilities. With those affidavits, we put in the public domain. That is what we can do. We put them on our own website, our RO's website, and we also give a copy to ADR, who do their own analysis and go to town. But if to expect Election Commission to do a campaign that we go into the merits of a candidate, that although we are an impartial authority conducting elections, can look, these are the candidates, don't vote for them because they have seen these criminal cases. Now, we cannot be indulging in that, and I think in the case will end up in Supreme Court itself.
Okay, so clearly, Election Commission being an impartial body and somebody which has been interested to go ahead and conduct elections can't be seen as partial. That's what Mr. Qureshi seems to be saying. Mr. Budgal, looking at the aspect which has been raised by Mr. Roy is that will the enactment of new laws, is that the solution, or are laws the only answer, given the fact that there are laws currently as well? And when we say that, it might not be prudent or it might not be very, very practical to expect Parliament to come up with a law to try and restrain themselves, or the politicians specifically, might not be true as well, because laws so far which are there have also been elected by politicians and parliamentarians only.
That is true. But I mean, a law being on the side of the citizen is a good thing. I mean, not having a law is a poor kind of alternative. You see, we have to look at all three things here. One is the candidate who is accused or who is a criminal. Second is the political party which is going out of the way to give a ticket to such a person. And third is a citizen who is voting. Okay, so a voter, but if you see it carefully, very often the voter has an option. There is a clean candidate and there are two criminals. The chances are that the criminal will be elected. Now, the ADR research says that if you are a criminal, you have twice as much a chance of winning the election than a clean candidate. So, which means the public is voting for them. So, there is something rotten here. There are nexuses. There is a business politics nexus. There is a politics crime nexus. There is crime and election nexus, in which there is some kind of a patronage which is given out. If you are a criminal, you can protect me. If you can't protect yourself, who will you protect?
So we need more awareness campaigns, something which, as Mr. Qureshi is pointing out, can't be done by the Election Commission.
No, people are very, very well aware. They are aware that he is a criminal, but they are also aware that he is a criminal of my caste, and probably he will save me. And violence is very important in our society. A powerful person is one who can create violence when it is required, or who can stop violence when somebody else is doing it. So that kind of control over violence, criminals are much better suited.
Okay, so but with that argument in the background, the Supreme Court's guidelines today, which they have come, aren't they well suited? Because it says political parties will have to go ahead and advertise in both print and electronic. It should be written in bold letters in the affidavit, and the political parties should also advertise on their website, specifically put it there that these are our candidates with criminal antecedents.
I think it's a good thing. I will not be cynical here. I would say, in spite of the fact that they stopped short of doing something better, but the very fact that they've emphasized this, then they've also said very clearly that this is something of legislative domain. If there had been a legislative void, then probably the court could have filled. Now, this is something that court is constantly saying that you discuss, you deliberate this point and you decide. Election Commission has also gone out of the way, has said that if there are heinous crimes like kidnapping, armed robbery, rape, murder, etc., and if the case has been filed 1 year before the elections, then, and the charge sheet has been, charges have been framed by the court of law, then you can go ahead and debar the candidate. Okay. But obviously, I mean, we have to do much more than that.
Mr. Iyer, when we say we have to do much more than that, does it indicate to the fact that, we'll have to put in more checks and balances in terms of a new law, as well as make people more aware, and let bodies like Election Commission of India focus more on conducting impartial elections, rather than going into merits of the case, specific merits of the case, as pointed out by Mr. Qureshi?
No, well, Election Commission has been doing its job, in the sense that the way they have been trying to enforce various, the rules under the Models Code of Conduct, as well as the provisions of the RPA. Now, I think it enjoins upon political parties. They have, because this, after all, why do they give tickets? Then we come back to the issue of winnability, which the court has mentioned in its observation today, that winnability itself should not be a criteria. I think that should apply to all parties. Why do they have to go for somebody whom is such a nuisance in the society? And after all, parties know whom they are giving tickets, because after all, they have their, these days they have their surveys and various inputs. when they know there is a bad candidate, I mean bad within quote unquote with this kind of criminal background, should the parties just for the sake of winning a seat give a ticket to some, they could as well choose somebody else. Because this requires parties at the helm, parties which have got leaders. They have to decide, no, we should not do it, at least to start with. Because a law like that, which I mean, there is a reason why the political party should agree on a law, because a law like that will also enable the parties to deny tickets to such people. Because they also face tremendous pressure from whatever supporter base or whatever. If there is a law, they can at least cite the law. Like, for instance, now there is a law which says if you are convicted, you are debarred for 6 years. So this has come handy for many, parties also. So similarly, a law will help the party in situations where the party is unable to enforce in matter of selection of ticket.
Okay. So the onus lies with the politicians and the lawmakers. That's what you're saying, to try and come up with a particular setup wherein checks and balances are there. Chakshu, your viewpoint on this. We're running short of time, but then quickly, is this our right takeaway that the onus ultimately will lie with the politicians and the lawmakers specifically, who are running political parties, to ensure that they not only discourage criminals entering politics, but also help in bringing a proper law or putting proper checks and balances in the system?
Vishal, very quickly, I think both Vipul and Shikhar sir made very interesting points. See, the environment for political representation in this country ensures that our legislators are not lawmakers. They are supposed to be problem solvers. And when you want a problem solver in office, the electorate, looks at not somebody's record in parliament or the legislature. They look at the fact as to whether somebody will be able to get a transfer done, whether somebody will be able to get a road fixed. Now, if that is the criteria for which voting will happen, then the political parties will always have the incentive of getting somebody in who can solve people's problems and there, ensure that he's a winnable candidate. So the solution can't be like a unidimensional solution that a law or a political party. I think it has to be a multi-dimensional solution which kind of addresses the environment of politics in this country and representation. So the Election Commission has a role to play. There has to be sensitization campaigns about what kind of leaders you want. Political parties have a role to play. Thinking that one person or one institution will be able to do it, may or may not be the best way to solve this problem.
Okay. Mr. Qureshi, final word from you as to what might be the final solution here. As Chakshu is pointing out, all stakeholders will have to put in that effort.
Two things. One, the Supreme Court itself should have made it clear that the mechanism which is within their domain, which means the fast track courts which they had ordered themselves, they should have reviewed. Not a word is mentioned. Secondly, at least the political parties can decide among themselves. One, they should bring a law, but if they cannot agree on it, at least each party can decide not to give tickets to such people and assert their moral authority, and I'm sure they will benefit from it.
Okay, Vipul?
Yeah, I think it's a basket of measures we need. We need state funding of elections, and we need this mukti from caste and communal politics. And for that, I think the citizen will have to finally come up and say that I am not voting these people.
Okay. So citizen will also have to take the decision. Shikhar, finally, last word from you, specifically in the light of what Vipul and what Mr. Qureshi is also pointing out, that it cannot be seen, separately, this entire issue. It will have to be seen holistically in terms of electoral reforms and, state funding, be it state funding or be it decriminalizing politics or dealing with the other aspects of election management as well.
Yes, absolutely. And cleaner politics is not just the interest of the people at large, but cleaner politics also is the interest of political parties themselves, because that is the way the future direction of politics will be. And there will be more and more pressure building up, more and more public opinion building up, which would require they come clean and they stay clean. So therefore, it is the right time for the political parties to move forward in this direction as decided by Supreme Court today.
Okay, so clearly, as our panelists are pointing out, that this is the right time for all the stakeholders to go ahead and put their best foot forward to try and resolve this issue, to try and ensure that all of us together find a solution to decriminalize politics. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, with a different topic and a different set of guests. Till then, keep watching Rajya Sabha Television.